in the light. I found myself in such a plight, and there's nothing that I didn't drink last night. About that time I realized that the strange floor on which I lied was rather sticky cold and covered in soft down. Then from a bathroom up ahead crawled a grey orc with a bald head, and she laughed at me still lying on the ground. My memory came surging back. Oh crap, what have I done? This lady orc could drag me home with me to have a little fun. My little friend had gone so far from only one kiss at the bar. Oh, now I know what we both did last night. But then a piercing beam of light shone from a dagger she held high. This lass was crazy, what the hell, whatever works. To gain my freedom once again was to survive her mating den. Might as well lie back and try and enjoy the perks. Way-oh, orc named Kaza, she threw me on her bedroll and she kissed from head to toe. Way-oh, orc named Kaza, don't know if I could walk right now or even in an hour. Ted must have felt the damage she had surely dealt, and so did I as soon as I came around. As she woke up I surely knew that she was ready for round two. Had to dig in with her knife to hold my ground. Now she had something else in sight, 'twas my Navari hidden knife, and she unsheathed it from my waistcoat with a grin. But I've been drinking meat and rum for so the night had just begun, and so the booze seemed to affect my show of him. Way-oh, orc named Kaza, it was the best night of my life until she let me go. Way-oh, orc named Kaza, she thought that she had won the night until she saw me hero. Way-oh, that orc Kaza, it was the best night of my life until she let me go. Way-oh, orc named Kaza, beware the bar, that's where she'll be. Might go and have a drink. Oh. Cracked open just a titch, my jaw and back ached like a bitch. My breath was foul and my head throbbed with pain. As my eyes filtered in the light, I found myself in such a plight, and there's nothing that I didn't drink last night. About that time I realized that the strange floor on which I lied was rather sticky cold and covered in soft down. Then from a bathroom up ahead crawled a grey orc with a bald head, and she laughed at me still lying on the ground. My memory came surging back. Oh crap, what have I done? This lady...
Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. I hope you can all hear me. It seems like I'm getting audio, which is nice. So please tell me if anything is off or anything like that, if I'm too loud, too quiet, or anything like that. So we have...
The rest of us that are here.
Yes.
Hello, testing audio levels.
Testing audio.
Put the music back on. So we have Adam down there, who is back again, and we have Irina. I was about to call you Octagon again. It's just like that's where my mind's going to now. Now you said that. I am much louder. I'll turn you down, and I'll turn them up. There we go.
Test.
Right,
Testing Adam's audio.
Testing. Saying things that people can hear.
There we go.
Words and stuff.
I've turned you two up,
Cool, thank you
full
very
now,
much.
so and I've turned me down quite a lot. So,
Nice.
so this is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be about magic. Well, more to the point, Irina without freeborn kit is so wrong.
Here is what I usually look like.
Wonderful. This is what I usually look like, pretty much. So, a bit of ritual magic. It's going to be quite an interesting conversation. So, we're going to go to chat quite a lot. And so, if you get any questions or anything like that, then feel free to ask. And then, when there's a natural break, I will come around and we'll read out any questions that anyone has. This is going to be educational for everyone because I am a complete noob when it comes to magic. I've had rituals and magic done on me, but I'm more just standing there waiting to go either have a fight or go to the bar. So that's pretty much where my knowledge of magic comes from. So we have Adam, who does a lot of ritual things because I know he does it, and he has recommended Irina. That was said right, wasn't it, as well? Was that said right? Irina, excellent. I'm doing this. She has said he has recommended yourself because you are very knowledgeable of all of this as well. But it turns out as well beforehand he may have just nominated you because you have a cat.
I just learned about the cat, so I don't think we can retrospectively give that reason.
Wow.
I'm giving a more like practical perspective on like actually doing rituals because I have a vague idea of the goings on behind the scenes, but basically I just end up leading a lot of rituals or organizing them in terms of like what are people gonna do and how we're gonna make it look good. I'm about making it look good rather than necessarily crunching the numbers and throwing the mana. I just contribute to my household, which eventually turns into mana, and somebody else does that.
Fantastic. So, Irina, if you introduce yourself for everyone here, who you are, who you play, and that for us.
Hello, everybody. My name is Irina Goodwin. I play Constanza y Calamar y Guerra, who is a lovely freeborn lady who usually looks like this, but I'm not in kit, and I appreciate that even when I'm in the field and I take off the headdress, people are like, your head is so small. So if you see me now and you see me later in the field, you might not even realize it's the same person. There's a lot going on here. The Brass Coast is great. It is the brightest, most colourful, most jingly of nations. If people are being subtle, there are some nations where you might be like, oh, like maybe that's just like a dress, like an Urzin is just a very floaty Dornish, maybe, or you know, if people are being quite toned down. But Brass Coast, even toned down Brass Coast is bam, bright colours, so jingly, so fabulous, and we have a personality that goes along with it. I play up to it very much so, and I'm in a mercantile group where everyone has fleets apart from me, who's a priest. I used to have a fleet, but then I changed to having a congregation. And we are autumn ritualists. We get together, we have increased our coven size. We're actually able to do some of the largest autumn rituals in the coast, although there's other covens as well. Sometimes if we need to achieve something really big, we stick some covens together, or some people give us magical items to be able to do that. But generally, I do rituals that involve singing, dancing, partying, good fun.
Excellent.
That is the freeborn way.
Good. So, Adam, you're a spring ritualist? Winter? Autumn?
So
Summer? Which one?
so I play Saros Splitroot. Hello, everyone. Who is a Navari character. And as we're doing pictures of what we look like in character, that's what Saros looks like in character. I am predominantly a spring ritualist. I also dabble a little in night and winter, although it's been quite a long time since I have contributed meaningfully to any of those kind of rituals.
Right.
Spring is really my focus, both in doing rituals and in like my character's goals and objectives and stuff.
Excellent. So, when it comes to when you made your characters up, then and you were having a looking through all the magic-y things, magic was a thing that I sort of looked at and just went, nah. And then I ignored it and went on to combat stuff. So for you two, what was it that drew you to the specific realms that you wanted to be part of? Was there anything there that made you go, oh, that's fun?
I have quite a substantial answer in that Empire is actually my very first LARP. And I've done like tabletop, and I've done even parlor LARPs where you just turn up for an evening for a few hours and pretend to be vampires or changelings or whatever it is that's going on. But I'd never done a field LARP before. And when Empire came along, I have a lot of friends that did Maelstrom, but I wasn't that interested in it because it seemed like everyone was getting killed constantly, and I liked the pitch of Empire that it was civilized, that you could go and be people in a society. And me and a couple of friends really wanted to go. We ended up going like a year later than it actually started because they had just had a tiny child. But we wanted to be in a group. We wanted to do something together. Magic looked like something you could do as a team and get more out of it as a team. We had a group concept already built in there. Also, we didn't know what to expect with LARP, so we mostly just wanted to hang around and do social things and maybe see if we wanted to fight, but not straight away. And ultimately, we didn't want anyone really to die because we wanted to stay together as a group for a while. Maybe we'd fight later, but at first, nah, let's just see what this system is about. So since we were much the opposite of yourself, where you were like, I just want to fight, we were like, we don't want to fight. So we had to explore those options. And basically, we came in as a coven of autumn mages. My very first stat of Constanza was 3 levels of autumn lore and nothing else. I was full magic. Nice. And you wouldn't believe that looking at me now, because I'm a priest, I've got priest skills, I've got battle mage, I do all sorts of stuff. That's what happens as time goes on, you get different interests. But initially it was all in on magic. And that's because I thought, we don't have to go to battle, I don't have to point at anyone and zap them. I can just do a little song and dance with my friends, and some effects will happen, usually to make our fleets better, which is great because we love money, because we want to have the money so we can go around in the field and buy tasty treats and experiences and tea houses and all that nice social stuff. So we were making money, and autumn was the money thing, and we were casting the money spells on us money fleets. So there.
Excellent. That's a really good answer. Adam, so what was it that drew you to spring and then dabbling in night and winter?
So initially when I genned Saros way back in the early years of Empire, I actually, so a bit of wider context, Empire is not quite my first LARP, but almost. I attended Maelstrom for about a year before it ended. I think potentially even just under a year. And then straight into Empire. So I'd done maybe 3 events before starting Empire. I started Empire with a character who was a night ritualist. And it was a Naga, and I wanted to play into all of that kind of hedonistic end of things.
Mm.
Drugs were a big part of the economy in Maelstrom,
Yeah.
and they're less so in Empire, but that's kind of the character I wanted to play. He ended up dying, and I was not prepared for that at all. And so what I did was pretty much just roll up the same character in like I'll do something a little bit different, but I'll just do this while I figure out what I'm going to do next, really. And he, so I genned him again with night and just a bit of winter because that's mainly what our coven were doing at the time. Back in the early days of Empire, there was a big anti-spring sentiment within Navarre because it was understood that the Valorn was predominantly spring-based, and we hadn't yet recovered the ritual texts for Dance of Navarre and Thorn and things that kind of gave us a reason to delve into that a lot more than I had. That wasn't really in the brief. It was kind of an on-field thing, and it wasn't amazing. But for whatever reason, that's what it was. So Seros started off as a character whose intention was to sell enchantments of what's the chill out night one? You know what I mean?
I do know the one you mean.
Chamber of Delights.
Chamber of Delights.
Okay.
Would just sell Chamber of Delights to pubs, and that would be his thing. And then he'd spend time in the pubs and spend the money that he just earned, and it would be a super chill thing. He ended up picking up a bit of Spring when we picked up Dance of Navarre and Thorn, and Spring started taking off in Navarre. And then he kind of fell into the Eternals game almost by accident, really. Excuse me. And because he fell into that, he needed a lot more of the Spring lore and to be casting those Spring rituals, and to be trying to persuade the Coven to cast those as well. And so that's when he started deep diving into that more than being a generalist within the adversity realms, Spring, Night, and Winter.
Yeah.
So that's how he ended up kind of falling into it. And I really love Spring for like, I don't know why I didn't choose it originally, because it has a lot of themes that really appeal to me. A lot of the like body horror stuff, and a lot of it has the element of winter of like the cost for the benefit and things like that. That really appeal to me.
Cool. So Mr. Nook has Drunken Corsair's just posted a link for the Chamber of Delights. So thank you for that, mate. I think he is also a Night Magic Naga as well.
I will probably play a Naga when Seros ever dies again. I'll probably give it another go because they are fun.
I'm going to be buying myself a wig for my next character. So
you're going to distinguish it somehow, right?
Yeah. Well, I've decided I'm going to look like Kit for my next character. Have a long blonde hair.
Very nice. Good look good.
Oh, right. Okay. It's Chris of the Umbral Path. Brat for Umbral Path. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Damn you, Foul. He's in there. He's not an orc mask. Funny enough, me and Helen were talking last night about next characters, and we are looking at orcs quite seriously. So we might, when Mac dies, it looks like we're probably heading towards the orcs, because we've got the kit already. It turns out, so we're doing well.
Oh, nice.
No
Have you seen Larry the Fuzzy's question? There is a potentially interesting question. Right back up at the start.
Fuzzy. Scroll up there. Larry the Fuzzy. Oh yeah. Why was Hallow of the Green World interdicted? Interdicted
is right. Yeah.
See, Fal asks the best question. What's magic?
I mean, we can answer that question if you like.
Please don't.
It's going to get quite metaphysical deep dive into the world that Empire have written.
Let's go for Larry's one. So, why was the Hallow of the Green World interdicted?
So Hallow of the Green World, for those who don't know, is a very large empire-wide enchantment. So it affects every single person within the empire. And what it does is it increases the birth rate of the empire, which has many advantages. And there are also some more, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial aspects to it.
Mm.
And the reason it was interdicted at the time, and I don't think it is interdicted anymore, someone correct me in chat if I'm wrong, if it is still interdicted, but the conclave went through a period of when people first started to be able to cast these very large empire-wide enchantments. The empire could only have one on at a time, and if the conclave and the empire as a whole has decided that we need X on it for whatever reason, all it takes is one of the coven who doesn't go to conclave to just cast another one late on the Sunday, and it just overwrites it. And so there was a whole discussion about how do we manage this in any reasonable way. And additionally to that, Hallow of the Green Mother was getting cast a lot, over and over and over and over again. And one of the theorized side effects of that is that a lot of the children that are born as a result of it become Briars. And at the time, there was quite an anti-Briar sentiment as well, more so than there is at the moment. Yeah, there is still a little bit. We're seeing a lot of pushback against that now.
It's sensible.
But it was worse at the time. And so not interdicted currently. Thank you, Chris. And so in order to curb its use so that we could do some other things, it was interdicted.
Right.
And it was the one that was getting cast a lot, so it was like a plug solution to that problem.
Okay.
So there you go, that's why.
Cool.
I would actually like to very shortly go back to what is magic, because if we have mutant people in the chat here, I think it's actually worth doing a little overview of why magic in Empire, because you hear us talking about spring and autumn, etc., but the fact is that magic comes from other realms, essentially, which are attuned to the four seasons and night and day. And they each have their own flavor and the sorts of things that magic is able to do. The realms are sort of separate. They're like other dimensions, but there is a connection because there can be portals that go here and there. There are often heralds of Eternals who are very powerful beings that live inside these realms that can more easily come and go and bring messages and try to deal with the Empire. They're understood to be beings that don't really have souls, but, you know, they're people, and you can talk to them and you can get stuff out of them. And the magic that is relevant to their realm, they're often very strong in it, so they might be able to give you some kind of boons, which is why dealing with the realms is also slightly connected with the actual magical weaving associated with those realms. Also, the lineages are touched by specific realms, like I am a Cambion, the person with the sort of ram horns. They are touched by the realm of autumn, and as you can see, I went all in when I started. I was like, autumn, Cambion, freeborn, all in one basket, basically. But the other lineages also are touched by various realms, and I appreciate I've talked for a while, so does anyone else want to carry on? While I take the break?
No, I think that's a pretty good summation of things, in that there are other realms with power in them, and all that magic is I say all, what magic is drawing that down into our realm to do thematically appropriate things to whatever that realm is about.
Yeah. So I'll go back to Mr. Nook, because he asked a question here and then we went off to something else. So he asks, do you come up with the lyrics and actions for rituals on the fly, or do you prepare them ahead of time?
Go on.
I have such an answer for you. Initially, when we started doing rituals, we were very new to the whole thing, and we were like, "Oh, we'll just wing it." I feel we're very much beyond that now, because it is fun to do coordinated things. Basically, because I dance at a fairly high level. Basically, we used to structure it sort of around me dancing, like we'd do some music and I'd dance, and then we'd say some words or we'd shout some stuff. So it was kind of loose, but like there'd be a dancer and some other elements. The dance style that I do is actually structured to be a group dance. It just so happens that often I'm the only person I know who knows it. But if you know the rules of the dance and there are multiple people there, you can just dance together while making it up. So it's a sort of off the cuff improvised choreography. So what actually happened is that I taught the basics of this dance to the rest of my group. And when we went to Empire, like we'd meet up like every week or other week or so, and I'd take them through the basics. And then when we were in the field, it's not that we choreographed, it's more I taught them the rules. So we could suddenly dance together, and even if it's just the basics, 3-4 people dancing together, seemingly in sync, looks amazing. And it gathers a crowd, and everyone comes along, and they're like, those guys are dancing together. Did they choreograph this? No, we didn't, but it looks fantastic. Also, actually, I have Magic in Empire to thank for me getting into music, because I wasn't really any kind of musical person, but when I came to Empire, I had loads of people singing these fabulous songs and just sitting around the fire, singing along, just introduced to songs and stories. My mind was blown. But I was like, we should do more musical things for rituals, because Brass Ghost is all about having a party, and the more ways that we can party, the better. And basically, I ended up filking a few songs specifically for rituals. One of which is extremely popular, the Dolphin song. If anyone has heard it, it gets around a lot. I'll do the Dolphin song for you a little bit later. It's very easy.
Excellent.
But because you get people together, and it doesn't matter if they're not contributing magical power, it's a joining in song, and there are actions, and everyone does it, and you feel like you're in a group, and you feel like you're channeling something communal. So audience participation songs, I filmed songs, wrote songs, eventually original songs, and now I'm just me and music are like this. Oh, I love it.
Awesome. Also, there's Fowles asked, the most common magical techniques are rune magic, dramaturgy, astronomancy, and the music of the spheres. Which is your favourite method of ritual performing, and why? I think you've kind of answered that one.
Someone's forgotten about blood magic.
No, blood magic has been mentioned in the very, very next line from that.
Okay,
so
good,
you've got blood magic there. You've also got totemic magic as well.
There's other opinions out there.
Go for it, Irina.
Yeah.
No, I'm handing over because.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's already obvious what I like, so somebody else.
So when I perform rituals, and I'll kind of answer the previous question and this one because they kind of tie in together. I like to lean heavily on blood magic because it's thematically nice for Navarre and a lot of the rituals that I cast. And to tie that in with like how much of it is planned and how much of it is improv, I tend to do a bit of both. And I use, I guess, a kind of style that anyone who through their normal life has done any kind of presentation training or anything will immediately recognize, in that I have a broad structure and I like improv through that. So I cover like what the ritual is going to do, doing the ritual, and then what we've just done, which is a very basic presentation structure, and then pull on a lot of the stuff that's on the wiki for like the common elements, and weaving blood magic through that. But within that structure, a lot of that is improv, and I'll weave in a lot of the why we're doing it and talking about what the reason for what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. So, to use an example of, say, Rivers Run Red, let's pick a ritual at random. We will talk about the territory that we're targeting. Our coven will have a map. We will talk about the sacrifice that the rest of the nation and the empire makes. And one of the things about blood magic, for people who aren't familiar with it, is it's symbolic. You are taking blood from the willing, and it's symbolic of a sacrifice. So you can go on this whole long nice spiel about how the thorns shed their blood and in doing what they do, and we shed our blood in doing what we do in recognition of their sacrifice, and all this nice stuff. You could do a lot of nice imagery of bleeding on the map and tracing out the lines where you want the blood to flow and all this kind of things, even for nicer rituals, more pleasant rituals. And so each of the rituals that we do as a coven will have this kind of framework that everyone's quite familiar with, that we always usually cover. And each of us can step in and talk a bit about it because we know what the rough framework is. And so blood magic is my favorite to play with, although it's kind of limited in that it is just shedding the blood to signify your acceptance of the cost that the ritual is going to take. Whereas the runes and the constellations have like, oh, we can draw this one, and we can draw this one, and this one. So you definitely need to find ways to use that blood magic and get a bit creative with it. And we'll always tie in other things, like we will trace out runes or constellations with the blood and different things like that. So there are a load of interesting ones. And honestly, if you go hunting through the wiki and don't mind playing a character who is a little bit controversial, there are other magical traditions out there. So if that's something you're interested in, go hunting around, because a few others are mentioned, which will raise some eyebrows. Definitely do it. It's a good game and it's fun.
I definitely suggest being informed about the magical traditions of your nation, because whatever the actual path through to the magic that you're taking, whether it's stars or runes or whatever, I sing and dance. I guess that's dramaturgy, but it's very different from like people that will literally put on a play, or like people that will do a big speech. And you can make pretty much any of those fit your nation. So mash things together, that's where the good stuff happens.
Yeah.
So to quickly run through like all of the different pieces of information that you have to draw on if you are either writing and planning a ritual or if you're improving it.
Yeah.
You have, shout out if I forget anything, the realm and thematic things appropriate to that realm. Eternals, if you are specifically calling on the name of any Eternals. The intended effect. If it has a target, it's nice to tell the target the intended effect as part of the ritual. Side effects. Having those side effects affect you while you're casting it and telling the target what those side effects are. Even if you're not targeting a person, if you're targeting a area or the entire empire, shout it. Tell the empire, tell that territory what it is that the effects or side effects are going to be. The virtues are really nice to riff off for rituals. So talking about why you're doing it and how it will help their virtue. This is especially great for things like ruthless vigilance, healthy crops, which has it built right into the name.
Mantle of the Golden Orator boosts congregations and makes people listen to your religious politicizing.
Amazing. Great as well. Half magic is absolutely huge to weave that into your, what would you call non-half magic? Realm magic. Let's use realm magic for now.
Why not?
And as well as national history and traditions. When Navarre talk about sacrifice, we often mention Izella and other figures in the Navarre history. There's quite a lot who've made a sacrifice. It's quite big in their whole thing. I think that's everything. That's everything I've got written down. So shout if you think there's something else that you can draw on. But that's certainly like my list. If I'm running out of things to say and we've got like 4 minutes left on a 10-minute ritual. Audience participation is great. For us, that means cutting them. For other people, it can mean getting them involved. Audiences tend to back away when we start cutting our own hands open and bleeding into a bowl and then drinking it.
We just invite everyone to our rituals. Like, it's literally a party. Just, hey, want to come do a ritual with us? And they're like, oh, you're going to like draw runes and things. Nah, man, come along.
Yeah.
I'll have to do that. I've been told of a herb that enables you to a potion you can take that enables you to see magic or something like that.
Okay.
It has an effect on you. I can't remember what it was called. I was told about it in one of the streams, and so Mac and Grim, we're going to come to the ritual circle off our tits basically, and we're going to get high on everyone doing rituals, and we're going to be around. So
there's the Goose Whisper infusion, which gives you the effect of signs and portents, which is way trippy because you get a vision and like it's kind of meaningful, but it's definitely connected to plot. But how?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Goose.
Work it out. If you want, like, if you're not sure what the hell you're doing, just go have a vision and then chase will-o'-the-wisps or something.
Yes, Goose Whisper is a Goose Whisper is a good one. I would definitely recommend Goose Whisper for new players as well. It's a great way of getting into things and seeing things, and you go around and you talk to people and say Magpie Infusion is the one that lets you see magic. That's the one I was thinking of. Thank you very much. So I mean, it's a really, really good way of doing things, because like I said, I mean, I have no interest whatsoever in magic. It just doesn't interest me. And then I did Challenge the Iron Duke, that thing.
I was about to mention that.
I've done that one, and basically it was for two of us. So for Mac and Grim. So the thing with the Challenge the Iron Duke, from what I know, is that you have to basically you go along and go, I am amazing at something, at this. Challenge me to show you how amazing I am at something. And we went along and we were like, we want it to be different, because apparently everyone just goes along and says, I'm the greatest warrior the Empire has ever seen, and that's all you ever see. So we went along, Mac and Grim, and we are now regarded as the greatest lovers the Empire has ever seen. And that's what they played on. We're also the greatest family men as well, and it's like we really played heavily on family and love and stuff like that, and that went off. And we would have found out at E1 what our challenge was, but we don't know yet.
Oh no!
I know. So
I heard of like politicians and priests doing it, and theirs are very roleplay heavy. It's like getting a treaty of some kind, or converting somebody, etc. So there's all sorts of things that can be done for it if you're willing to say that you're great at some creative things.
yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be really good, because I think PD would love the fact that they can do more creative stuff rather than just send someone in to have a fight, and that it's do something creative, really challenge people, make something difficult, And I think that would be a really, really good thing. So, PD, if you're watching, I want to know what I'm doing. We want to know, me and Chris, we want to know what we're doing.
Do you
the
get...
politician I knew that did it said that she really likes that the challenge is within your realm of capability.
Yeah.
Because it would be really weird if you turned up and literally all you could do is fight, and then they were like, "You must write a poem." Like, I'm sure there's loads of people that would like step up to that, but equally the other way around, if you're a weedy poet and someone says, "Go slay a drake," you're going to be like, "Oh no." So
I could not write a poem. I could not write a poem.
As a pride priest, I like that it plays to people's pride.
Yeah.
No, it's very well done for sure.
We had the Herald come out and have a chat with us, and it was really, really nice. And it was some nice bit of role play. It was a nice chat. We just went off, and he read out to us what has been said and all that. And it was just a look on his face as he was like, "So you've said this." Okay. And it was just a shock. And we're like, okay, this will be interesting. And it was just I'm really excited now. Yeah, it was really, really good, because the people who did it within Wintermark, forgive me if you're watching, I can't remember, I'm so bad with names. And he basically had this, a letter was going to be written out. The letter wasn't written out in time, so the person who was meant to do it didn't turn up until halfway through, so he just scribbled some ideas down and then he read it all out, and they all ad-libbed everything, and it was fantastic. It was so funny to be involved in. So I'm pretty sure I have missed some things as well. So
I was just having a scroll up to see if there were any interesting questions.
So Big Book Guy said the one he casts, one they cast a lot, is Cast Off the Chain of Memory.
Good ritual.
For that, he gets practical. He has paper that burns purple, so he gets people to write down what they want to forget, then cast it into a fire while we make a steady beat. See, that would look fantastic. I think the whole look of it all is really, really good. So
there's loads of great props you can get. Tailoring them to the specific ritual and like the quirks of that ritual that they have on the wiki can be really fun for sure. So loads of cool things you can do.
Liam's asked in a quick. You've come to the wrong stream, Liam. In a quick summary, we don't do quick summaries on the stream where we've discovered. In a quick summary, what are the different magic rituals based on each realm? If that makes sense, yeah. So, what's the different magics that you get within each realm? Then, so
like what are the realms good at?
Yes, basically, yeah.
Sure. Irina, do you want to do yours? Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll start that.
What's your thing?
So spring is about growth, basically, and that covers healing. So if you are cut, growing your skin back, that covers growth of bacteria inside you, giving you disease. That covers growth of pestilence. That covers growth of cancer. That covers growth of overabundance of plants and animal life. It is more of whatever is going on.
Right.
And that's why you get the Forlorn, not from spring, but it's heavily influenced by spring, because it is just more. Yeah, that's probably spring.
So Scott has said in chat, spring is healing and blowing shit up.
Yeah, you can do some. So you have the blowy up the gates one in it. It's not very explosive. It is growth like over your normal natural means. So you'll heal quickly when you have a healing ritual cast on you, but it's not explosive in the way that some other realms are. what do we do next?
Okay.
Let's proceed by the
Through the
year.
calendar?
So next
Summer.
is summer.
Yeah.
Summer affects changelings, who are the people with the swirls and antlers and like animal features, etc. Summer realm is about being bold and brash and combative. Summer is probably the warriest realm, so you'll get a lot of fight magic in there. I believe Challenge the Iron Duke is a summer one, because
sure
again,
it is.
it's got that challenge thing going on. But like you can make people like vigorous and have fortitude and go forth and have adventures and stuff. Basically,
Yeah.
I believe like the higher realms also, the higher ranks also let you like summon big monsters from the summer realm to fight for you. So it's very Wog is summer.
That's an awesome way of describing summer. I think that's probably the best way I've heard summer described, to be honest. Summer also has Mac's personal favourite Eternal, Cathan Kane, in it as well, for reasons. He wants a giant fort, what can I say? Spring, summer, autumn?
Autumn is a realm
Big
of
monsters, big heat. Sorry.
Autumn is a realm of connection. It's a very metal themed realm. Cambions, which is what I am, with the ram horns and the metal, etc., are affected by the realm of autumn. There's a metallic theme. There's also a sort of bargaining and deals and communication sort of theme to it. So there are a lot of commercial, mercantile, but also communication type rituals in autumn. Lure of Distant Shores is one that we cast a lot, which improves fleets. But what it actually does is improve the merchants that you're enchanting now to go forth and communicate with people and make deals. Likewise, the Mantle of the Golden Orator, which boosts congregations, enchants the priests in question to, again, be full of that communicating, wheeling, dealing energy to be able to basically have themselves be heard.
Yeah.
In terms of trading as well, you can literally trade with the Autumn Realm. You can put some stuff in a box, send it to the Autumn Realm, and they'll give you something for it that they think that it's worth. So it's also got that balancy thing going on. And contracts, very important. Freeborn, we love contracts too. We love Autumn. It's good.
That contracts with the Freeborn. That's a whole other story from me. Yeah, someone taking advantage of one of Mac's nieces with a contract in the Freeborn.
Oh no,
Mac, not a happy bunny. Vito is on my side as well with that one. We're gonna go and kill someone. That's great. Charlie, if you're watching, I am sorry. So yeah, there's I see the thing. This is what I love. The chat have been they give examples and they say things as well when we're talking about them. So Liam has said that he has a herb garden, and I know that there is a spring ritual that grows that boosts the herb garden, doesn't it?
So I don't believe there is, unless I'm wrong, and I might be wrong. The example that I used was, let me quickly just absolutely check the wiki, because if I'm wrong, I'll be grants additional money and it's the production of a forest. Yeah, the main herb boosting one is in winter.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Which is ruthless vigilance, healthy crops. And the reason for that, which I'll segue into winter nicely in a second, is that spring is all about growth, but that's not targeted in any way.
Right.
And so that will, if you create a ritual to funnel spring magic into your herb garden, what you'll do is you'll grow your herbs, but you'll grow the weeds, and you'll grow the caterpillars that eat your herbs, and you'll grow the rats that eat the whatever they eat, and all of this stuff will become more and bigger. And so when that becomes just like an absolute battleground of weeds and your herbs and animals, you're not going to be able to get in there to get your herbs without getting your entire foot taken off by a 6-foot rat. And so,
of unusual size.
maybe.
Best reference.
And so what winter is about, a lot of it is about things ending and things coming to their natural end. But a lot of it is also about the cost of power and also the wisdom that comes from someone who has been able to survive a long time, because life is a battle and you have to have spent lots to have had a long life. And so ruthless vigilance healthy crops enchants the actual person who owns the herb garden, not the herb garden itself. And it fills them with the wisdom of Winter Realm to make them ruthless in their vigilance of weeding out the weeds, and in order to leave the herbs. And what that does is also encourages them, has a roleplay effect of removing anything that is not doing its job. So you are taking out any pretty flowers, you are taking out anything that isn't serving the function of essentially preserving your life, which is what a lot of the herbs are used for.
Yeah.
And so winter is a very bleak and a very pragmatic and a very essentialist view on the world, which is probably exemplified by their Eternals, which I won't get into too much because I know, Steve, are you going to do an Eternals one after this? So I don't want to touch on the Eternals too much.
I will be doing an Eternals one, yeah.
Yeah, cool. We'll leave that there. Winter is about harsh costs and necessary acts.
Yeah, very much so. Not Goldhawk has said, is mana easy to sell and does it go for a good price? Yes. Probably on probably on the late Saturdays and on the Sunday when everyone's rushing to get rituals done and there's not much mana left. So mana goes up in price as the event goes on.
A whole verse in my Have You Heard song about mana. So once I met a friend in Anvil, see him maybe twice a year. There was several mana, but we didn't make things clear. Then we left it quite some time, and the conjunctions came and went. Now neither of us remember the amount of crystals lent. Aye, that stuff's not cheap. I'm so frustrated, I could curse and weep.
Very nice. Yeah, Krishna, the creator, if anyone is selling mana for 20 rings, come and speak to Sarah Splitroot in the field, and I will give you that.
If you have mana to sell, you are minted.
Yes.
Good job. You've won.
I steal a lot of mana throughout the event, and
nice. That's how you get rich. Stealing mana in it.
I always have about 20 mana on me at any one time, so which I generally take to the bar in one of the bars in the marches, because they will give you a point from one mana. So I'm in there a lot.
That's a very expensive pint.
It's probably one of the best pints in the field, to be honest. It's really good. They do it's a nice dark ale that they do. It's wonderful.
Where did we get to on the realms?
So just gonna be fantastic. Wolf 99 loved the Princess Bride reference, so we did well.
So we did all the.
So we've got night and day, day and night.
Irina, do you want to talk about day or not?
I can give it a go.
Up to you.
I can't deny that I'm not typing in day ritual.
I can talk about them if you don't want to.
I feel like I can talk about night better, but you're an actual night ritualist, so if makes sense
I-
for you to do it.
I'll lay it out, and then if there's anything you want to add, then
I'll give you a go, and you can chip in with anything else.
They're talking about mugging me in a field at the moment.
cool. You should.
I want to see people try.
Go for it.
Day is about casting the light of truth upon things. They're basically, if we're talking about runes, then night and day have basically opposite runes that go with them, where the day is looking for truth and unveiling and light and the lantern, and night is the veiled lantern, secrecy. We once made it accidentally a secret pie because we were going to do land for bargains, but then when it baked, the rune moved around like this, and then it became whatever the one for secrecy is, and then it became secret pie.
Ophis and Diras, right?
Yes, Diras pie, it became secret pie. It was meant to be land pie, but it turned out to be Diras.
Oh man, I want secret pie.
Today is about finding the truth of things and revealing things. Probably one of the highest level ones that I can think of is when you actually just talk to Leviathan, swim Leviathan's depths, where you just go to an Eternal and be like, oh, I'm asking you a question. Tell me what is true, which is a pretty big deal. In terms of, it's also a very meditative and academic almost realm. It cares about sort of the balance of things and mathematics and just being calm and considering things properly. It has like Solace of Chimes, which creates a calm roleplay area, which has been useful like in times when people have been cursed with being wild and crazy. And you put them in the Solace of Chimes and they're like, oh, I'm piecing out. Oh, it's great. But also it like analyzes magical effects and divines what's going on. Like you can scrutinize like effects on a territory with day magic and say, oh, the truth has been revealed to me. I know what is going on magically here. That's my summary.
There's an element today which is the bit that really interests me about it, which is going past that into the truth is awful or consuming in some way. It's the kind of cosmic horror element to it of you can't handle the truth, which is really interesting and I want to play with at some point.
You've got to line your brain with eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And so night is the opposite of that. It is also scrying in a way, but it is the emotions to day's facts. And so they have, I forget what they're called now, but they basically have at the kind of mid-level, about the 14 magnitude level, they have an equivalent ritual, and the day version will give you 20 people died here, and the night version will give you feel an immense amount of sorrow and something great was lost. And so depending on what you're trying to get out, one of those might be more useful than the other, or you will need both to get the full picture of things. And where night deals with emotions, you also have manipulation of those emotions. Freedom of the Soul and the cursed version, whose name escapes me right now. Or is Freedom of the Soul the cursed version? No, Freedom of the Soul is the enchantment version. Unfettered Anarchy is the cursed version, which heightens people's emotions. Whatever it is they're experiencing. What else was I going to say? I was going to lead into something, and my train of thought was going completely off scale. Emotions, manipulation of emotions, change. Thank you. Yes, that's the other thing. Is that day solidifies things, and night change, or not solidifies, purifies things into their proper form, and crystallizes. Very nice word. And night changes things not essential form, but changes things around their essential form.
Yeah.
You get a lot of, as you say, Twilight Masquerade to allow people to experience being a different lineage, and things like that. Spoopiness.
Spoopiness. Chris
Yeah.
has said Dreams in the Witch House, the scrying ritual.
Yes, that is the night version of those paired rituals, I think. Or is it Shadowed Glass of Sung? I can't remember what mag level they come in at, and I would have to wiki
I think night magic can also protect from scrying, where day is like, I'm gonna look over there. Night is like, don't look over here.
Yeah, exactly. There is an anti-scrying element to it as well, which is like a nice kind of polarity to have in the realm.
So there's a question here specifically for you, I'd say, Adam. Isn't Dream in the Witch House a H.P. Lovecraft reference?
Yes, it is. Dreams in the Witch House is a H.P. Lovecraft story.
Excellent.
The effect has nothing really to do with that story, but yes, it is. There are a huge number of Lovecraft and cosmic horror references throughout pretty much most of the realms. Certainly in night, spring, day.
Yeah.
They're the ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, Not Goldhawk is a new player.
We've got lictors in autumn. They're pretty spooky.
The lictors are pretty spooky in autumn, for sure.
Yeah, Not Goldhawk is that's coming to their first event and going into the Navarre as a ritualist. So
Navarre ritualist.
Just to say, the Drunken Corsair is obviously Chris on the Umbral Path. Chris is incredibly experienced role player, been at Empire since the beginning, and he really knows his stuff as well. So Not Goldhawk. If you get to meet up with Chris, you are in very, very good hands there. That's a really, really good one. That nice pairing. I like that. This chat is since I've been doing this, a lot of new people have been like meeting up and arranging to meet up in game, and they're like forming connections and stuff like that, and it's really welcoming for new people. It's been absolutely fantastic. We actually arranged for a new player. We sorted them a tent, sleeping bag, bed, everything like that, so they can actually camp in character now as well. So they're doing. We've sorted them all out. It's great. It's been so good. So he's been a magical healer, and spring seemed to suit that the best. Also super interested in getting into the Lord Rain Eternal game. We'll go into Eternals, it's fine.
We'll chat Eternals.
There's also battle magic, so you can heal people in the heat of the moment. That's all I do on a battlefield when I go.
Yeah.
Yes, I get picked up a lot. Would you say it's strange if you're only...
Because I can do some damage while no one's hurt, and then when someone's hurt, I'm like, I'm gonna heal you!
This is what I love. I have Chris, who plays Grim. He can empower, so he runs behind me in battle, literally holding on to me, going empower, as I'm calling shatter.
So... Empower is a great spell, and we should also, Steve, you should also do one of these about battlefield spells and magic and stuff for sure.
Okay, I'll add that to the list. The list is getting bigger and bigger. So fantastic. Wolf says, would you say it's strange if you were to only focus on one realm of magic and therefore not be knowledgeable on other realms?
Not at all. Not at all. Sorry, I'm going to jump straight in. Seros has, whilst I have night and winter, pretty much everything he does is just spring. And the night and winter stuff is just because that's what the Coven does, and I'd like to be able to help them out a little bit. Nothing that I really do in my uptime is affected by the fact that I have those skills. I could do it completely just with the spring lore. So I'm not even like, I wouldn't even say I'm the most knowledgeable person about spring in my Coven. Like, Seros Ultra specializes basically in one Eternal. So to specialize in a realm still leaves you a huge amount to do. And In fact, I would say like, so you can drill down, right? So you have the realm, and within that, you probably have a class of rituals that you could focus on. So those could be curses, scrying, enchantments. There's probably some other things. So personal enchantments or territory enchantments or resource enchantments or whatever. And then aside to that, Eternals, probably based on which one of those you pick. So there's a huge amount of space to explore within any one given realm. And if you have an entire coven that specializes in one realm, which is not uncommon at all, having one person who is the person that deals with this Eternal, one person that is the person that deals with this Eternal, one person that is the person that deals with this Eternal, is probably sensible, because there's so much information out there and so much stuff going on that you cannot have it all in your head at all. Unless you are much better than me, because I can't.
I also say that what you end up being like more broadly knowledgeable on really depends on the circles in which you move. Because I'm not sure whether the question is necessarily saying that, well, if you ultra specialize, will you just not know anything about everything else? It really depends on how you're playing the game. I know that I'm very much at risk of this, because literally all I do is like turn up, be like, boats are good, and leave. Sometimes that's literally all I do with magic in a game. But at the same time, I'm friends with magicians that go to Conclave, and because I'm a priest and quite connected to political people and war people, I've just sort of ended up as a bit of a hub for lots of people being like, oh, is this virtuous, etc. So coming at things from all different angles, I end up talking to a lot of people, and they bring their information, and then I'm constantly learning about other magical things. And because I mostly don't go to Conclave, but sometimes I do, and I learn a lot from that. So it really depends on how open you are to other magical knowledge, because there's a lot of ways that it can just come upon you if you're willing to embrace it.
Absolutely. And in terms of like focus, you don't need to focus by like realm at all. So to take the War Mage as an example, their remit will cover strategic level magic across most of the realms. And if you spend a lot of time in that role, you will almost certainly end up with quite a lot of knowledge about everything that is kind of in the 40 to 100 magnitude range that affects battle, and nothing about how any Eternals that don't directly sponsor those rituals work, or how the lower level rituals work, or anything else about those realms, other than I have to go to that coven and give them this stack of mana and tell them to put a fort here, and that's it. So there are loads of different ways to cut how you interact with magic and the game of magic at Empire, for sure.
It's a very organizational game, really. And whether it's a matter of just organizing your own coven, or like reaching out and coordinating with other magicians, and just because you personally cannot cast a spell doesn't necessarily mean you're not knowledgeable about how to herd people and get results, and know that these spells exist, and that we should apply one of those over here to get this effect.
Yeah,
absolutely. Steve, are we going to wrap up soon? Is that the plan?
Yes. I'm just going to. Yeah, we're probably like 10, 15, if that.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Okay. Liam's asked another question. Now, Liam's very new as well. He is. His questions always revolve around potions and becoming an apothecary. So his question is: Alex Smith from Tabletop Weekly spoke about a ritual that basically means artisans can craft an object in one night. I wonder if there is anything similar for an apothecary, maybe to learn potions faster or something like that.
Oh, I don't know, but I love Timeless Hammer Rhythm. I wrote a song for it.
Timeless Rhythm's Hammer is a great ritual, or whatever it's called.
So with that, I mean, Alex, so Smith is actually my Thane. he's my hall's thane. So, and he is artisan extraordinaire. He makes. I think he pretty much exclusively makes the is it Rod of Imperial Mastery or something?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So
yeah.
we seem to have like 5 of them, like every event going spare. So we have loads of them. So if you want to buy one, come to us. We have loads. So
do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
So I don't believe there are any rituals outside of spring, but I think there might actually be one in maybe summer, but it's not great. So there isn't, because you can just go with your herbs to create a potion. That doesn't need speeding up at all. And the learning of the potions is tied to the XP system, and there are no rituals that affect increasing the speed of that. There are rituals that involve swapping memories and that kind of stuff, but nothing to like get you more XP essentially. However, the rituals that do exist that target herbs and potions and things are the Churning Cauldron of Bravash, which changes herbs from one to another, and I think maybe generates you some more. The Rampant Growth, which just gets you extra herbs if you have a forest, which is not super interesting to you. And there's one which maybe even isn't on the wiki yet, because I can't see it in this list. Oh, no, it is, sorry. Madden's Gift, which creates Realms Root from herbs.
Yeah.
Which is a specialized kind of herb. I don't actually think it's used in potions. You just take it as is. Outside of that, it's Hallow of the Green World, which, as well as we spoke about earlier, increasing the birth rate, increases the production of the herb gardens in the entire empire. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So the cauldron doubles the herbs involved, but it's very expensive. Chris has said not at the moment for potions, but probably could be made via a AP. So us arcane projection, isn't it?
Yeah, we will probably have to do another whole thing on how arcane projections work, because I've never done one, and I am absolutely not a specialist in how arcane projections work. And I
I'm
would
not,
just
but
be
I could probably point you at some people, because I know I end up sort of herding rituals that are arcane projections. So there's definitely people I know that do them, because occasionally it's like, hey, do this thing on this territory, and it's like, okay, time to organize a party.
So there you go, Liam. You've got something to do in the field now to go and find out about. That's you're creating a nice little bit of personal plot for yourself there, mate. You're doing well. The PD podcast has an episode about arcane projections.
Oh, go and listen to that then. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh no, I will do one as well, because I think it's good to get a lot of perspectives, different views on it all and stuff like that. So it's always good to have. So people are talking a lot about maths at the moment. So you get a lot of the rituals and things like that have magnitude attached to them, and you have different spring levels which affect the numbers that you can do, and there are rituals that affect what you can do as well, I believe. See, look at my incredibly base knowledge here. It's pretty spotty at best. So,
Adam, you said you talk about maths.
Adam,
we'll get you a cat.
Talk about maths. Go get the cat.
So, every ritual has a magnitude, which is a reflection of how powerful it is, but also of how much power has to be spent in order to cast it. Now, without that is a very good cat.
It's a very great cat, sleepy cat.
All other things being the same, if a ritual costs, or if a ritual is a magnitude of 40, then you will have to have 40 mana crystals in order to cast it.
Right.
What you also need is people to cast the ritual. And so for every person who is casting the ritual can contribute a number of mana crystals equal to their realm lore. So if you have a spring level of 3, you can contribute 3 mana crystals to that.
Right.
Right. When you purchase realm lore, you also are allowed to. You get 2 mastery slots.
Okay.
And you can pick rituals to have mastered. If you have mastered a ritual, the mana crystals that you contribute count double.
Right.
So in our example with 3 spring lore, if it's a ritual that I have mastered, if I put 3 mana crystals in, that counts as 6 towards the magnitude. If I have magical items that increase my mastery level, that happens. That increase your realm lore level. That happens before the mastery doubling.
Right.
So when you cast rituals in the Anvil Regio, that adds 1 straight away. So that would put me on spring 4. So to cast something I've mastered, like Rivers Run Red, I would be contributing 8. Make sense?
Yep.
You then add on also any items. So for example, I have an item that adds another 2. So that puts me on 4, 5, 6, doubled to 12. So before the doubling, so I hand over 6 mana crystals, and that counts as 12 towards the magnitude.
Okay.
And that's it. That the reason it gets complicated is when you have a large coven trying to do a large ritual, you will have a mixture of lore levels, a mixture of masteries, and random items that give some people +1, and you'll have other things like Spring Viz, which is 3 mana crystals in 1 card, or other grotesque bits of offal that count as mana crystals and this kind of thing. And so the maths gets long, but it's at its base, you're not doing anything more complicated than adding and doubling. And as soon as you hit that number of the magnitude, then you're good.
Excellent.
That's it. That's an overview of how to do ritual math.
Okay. It does make a lot more sense. So what we'll do then is we'll go for the comment. Why did I choose ritual magic? This maths is going to take me all weekend to work out if I can do a ritual, and then panic on the Sunday to get it done. Don't worry. There'll be a lot of people to go and ask, and if it's your first event, just ask. Really is the easiest thing to do, and you'll get to know a lot of people who do it. And if you see Saros around, ask. If you see Adam, ask. See Chris, ask. It's good. You'll be fine. Really, don't worry. Fowles asked. Let's ask a question. So that is a wonderful cat. So we'll do this question, and then we'll call it there. I just scrolled on me. For a brand new ritual mage, what mag rituals do you recommend learning or becoming mastered in? Is it more fun to take low-hanging fruit and having a go at doing rituals yourself, or taking higher mag rituals to join a coven, or do you suggest leaving them blank so you can learn them in play?
I've talked for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Irina, do you want to answer this one or not? Up to
well,
you.
the thing is that I'm covered in cat fur. He's a very fluffy boy.
Such floof.
Those are all very valid approaches. It really depends on what you think would be appropriate to you. I think that you can't go wrong with leaving them blank, because literally all it takes you to learn is just overnight. And of course it depends on who you get on with and play, because if you turn up and you've taken these rituals, you're like, oh, I'm going to find a coven, I'm going to do these things. What if you find a coven but they're like a completely different realm, or whatever is going on. Like, you can't tell who you'll meet and who you'll get on with.
Yeah.
So, in fact, just across the board, if you're not sure, you can just be an apprentice. But it doesn't take you very long to go and spend that XP. If you meet someone cool and they tell you what they're doing, they can include you in their rituals. You can have a go, and then you can be like, yeah, this is the thing that I want. You just go over to the PD tent and you're like, I'm spending my XP now, and off you go. You might want to, if there's something that you're like, I definitely want to do this, it's worth taking it. Because if your goal is, I really want to do this ritual, you're not going to change your mind about that. So that can be one of your goals. You turn up, you're like, hello, I know the sign's importance because I want to have crazy visions. I'm definitely going to do that one. And then see where it takes you. You can maybe take something small that you can do by yourself. There's a few small rituals that I really enjoyed doing, but there are different ones in each realm, so we can't necessarily advise you which ones to take as a ritual mage because there are so many things to do. In Autumn, for example, there's Call the Winged Messenger, which people use to send messages through the realms and to the target of the message, often to write to NPCs on other sides of the world. And the rules around that have changed recently, but it's a very low-ranking spell, so you can just cast it yourself a lot of the time. And I'm often called upon to do it because I'm usually caught walking around with a mana crystal and some iridescent gloaming in my pocket, and I've got a cool song that I sing when I do it, so that always generates play. But there'll be something like that in every realm that you're interested in. And if you go to your first event and you do the thing and you don't like it, you can always change. Just write to PD and say, hey, had my first event, learnt a lot of things, learnt about myself and what I want. It's not, say, Autumn, which I took. Nah, but I met these cool people that do night. So can I shuffle? Can I take some different rituals? They're really understanding about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even with, I took Magician as Mac for some reason, and I did it for one event, and I realised it was absolutely pointless, because I really wanted to bother Eternals, and I was just like, not for me, and I went to PD and I told them, and they're just like, it's fine, it's not for everyone, and so they gave me the XP back, and that was it. It was really, really good. So yeah, if you try something, then and you don't get on with it, PD is always the way to go. It's like any really big questions as well, always go to PD. PD are the font of all knowledge. Just chuck them an email, they will be able to help. So I mean, the reason for streams like this is to give you an understanding and insight into what's going on. There is I could run 100 of these streams, and there is no way we would cover everything. There is that much in there, and no one will ever have mastered everything or know everything.
Well, you learn by doing, because you'll turn up and you'll have read up on particular things that you're interested in, but you'll learn about other things when you're there. And then as time goes on, you'll learn about other things, you'll be properly embedded in the world, and yeah, at this point, like you say, it's so difficult to articulate everything that you know, because it's like, how do you articulate living in a world and knowing its context? It's literally that big.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we'll call it there. Going for hour and 25. So like I say, I normally aim for an hour, but I know it will always go for about an hour and a half. So that's fine. So thank you everyone for coming along and watching. If you haven't hit the follow button, hit the follow button. It helps me massively. If you even have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to me for free. Essentially, that also helps out, because when I get my next payout, I'm buying something from probably Darkblade, and we'll give something away in a free competition for people as well. So we'll do another competition. So it will all be good. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Irina and Adam, for doing everything. Adam, I'm sure we will see you again. Irina, I would love to get you back on at some point, and we can do probably a chat about the Brass Coast. I think that would be good.
Oh, I I'd love to talk about the Brass Coast, and
So-
I got some cool people I can point at you.
I've got so I'll be looking at doing one for every nation as well. So yeah, I think it'll be good, and it'll be a nice basic thing to put out there for everyone. All of my stuff goes onto my YouTube channel as well. So if you've only got half of it, it will be up probably tomorrow, and then you can go and watch it again. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming along and watching. Thank you for all the questions. It has been really good fun and really informative. I'm learning the more of these streams I do. So it proves you can teach an old dog new tricks. So thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye.